What's up, everyone? Welcome to NFL Tea Time Week 15 edition. George Belichicks here with Meredith Gorman. And Meredith, same old song and dance for the Patriots. Fall 27-17 to the Chiefs. Now 3-11 on the year. And heading into a game where it was, hey, if the Patriots pull off an upset win, start to win the last 3 games of the season, maybe Bill Belichick stays. They just look like the same team we've been seeing this season. Undermanned, under-talented, bad in the second half. What were your takeaways from yesterday's loss for the Pats?
Well, honestly, we talk about a loss being a bad thing, but it's not such a bad thing for the Patriots anymore because the more games they lose at this point in the season when they're out of the playoffs, there's really no light at the end of the tunnel for this season, the better their draft position is come April. So I think all things considered, you hate to see these guys putting in a lot of work and risking getting injured for these essentially meaningless games, right? I mean, it's meaningless from a team standpoint, not from an individual stat standpoint when you're playing for your career or your next team or your next contract, but all things considered for the Patriots organization, a loss isn't the worst thing.
Yeah, right now in line for the number 2 overall pick. The Panthers won on Sunday. So as the Patriots, 1 game away, essentially win-loss, depending how it goes, to having the number 1 overall pick. But you're right. You mentioned it when it comes to injuries. Like this team, they lost Cole Strange in the game. Connor McDermott as well, and Hunter Henry went down. So the offense just completely undermanned. But again, like last week, we saw Bailey Zappi go out and light it up in the first half, hit that wall in the second, as it was for yesterday. Threw a touchdown, should have had another to Hunter Henry, but a holding penalty called it back. Then in the second half, just 57 total yards of offense, just 2 first downs, and it was punts, it was turnovers. They started out really sloppy, and they made it easy for the Chiefs, whose offense had their own struggles. The defense stepped up, shut down Travis Kelce, shut down the run game, but Patrick Mahomes is just too much, converting long third downs. But this is a Patriots team. You look at them, they come into a game, they play with the defense. The offense just can't put it together, and it comes to a head again when it comes to their talent, when it comes to their personnel, and even at quarterback right now, Bailey Zappi, it's an audition that's left for him. You know, can he be a backup? Can he be a bridge quarterback if they draft someone in the top 3 picks of this upcoming draft? The Bailey Zappi I saw yesterday, bridge quarterback that says no, even backup, I don't know, because they might have to look outward. You see a guy like Jake Browning playing well. You see Jacoby Brissett, he'd be more expensive, but is there someone you could go in and trust, especially as you're about to draft a rookie quarterback? The Pats have so many more questions still than answers with this roster and Bill Belichick's future as well.
Yeah, you know, I think if you're the Patriots, you keep Zappi on the roster, you let him compete in training camp next year. It really depends what they end up doing during the draft. I think if they end up picking in the top 3, which seems like it's going to be the case, they are going to do themselves a disservice to not draft a quarterback. You can see them drafting a quarterback. If Mac Jones moves on to another organization, gets the fresh start that I think he deserves and needs, I can see them keeping Zappi and at least letting him compete for that roster spot. I mean, do I think he will be a starter next year? No. But I think he could be a viable backup, and I don't know if it's because of the yips that Mac Jones has had, you know, this season, or if it's the confidence that Zappi's had not having to deal with the same pressure that Mac Jones faced in the beginning of the season. But Zappi has outplayed Mac the games that he's been able to start.
I think it's a great point you make when you brought up the confidence, because that's what we see from him. This is a guy that was cut in training camp, said, you know what, I'm going to end up playing one day. I have nothing to lose. I got to keep working hard. Waited for his moment. That's where I fall too. You do keep him through training camp. I think you let Mac go, you trade him, you try to get something back. He needs a new setting. But what Bailey can be, if he could be someone that can help bring along a rookie quarterback, you still need a veteran in the room, though. Like, not having Brian Hoyer this year really hurt them. With Bailey Zappi, we see a lot of limitation in his game, and I think we've seen it show it up 2 weeks in a row. So it's week to week, can you prepare and be a starter? But also week to week, can you be a backup? Keep your hands attended to, not lose games. That's what you want with Bailey Zappi. You're not looking for a long-term starter. And for him, he's like, hey, keep me on a roster. Let me make millions. Let me have a career in the NFL. I bet that's what he's looking for.
Yeah, I don't think being a backup quarterback is the worst thing in the world. People say, oh, it's kind of the easiest job in the world.
I would love it.
Practice and then you don't always play. It's like you're getting paid millions to be a backup. That being said, you know, the Patriots did end up, well, they don't have Will Grier on the roster anymore, although he hasn't played in a game since 2019. The Chargers scooped him up off the Patriots practice squad. So you have to wonder if the Patriots will pick up a third quarterback for the rest of the season, just as like an insurance policy.
Whoever it may be out there. I mean, yeah, because right now their quarterback room, since Malik Cunningham signed with the Ravens, it's down to Bailey Zappi, who's your starter, and Mac Jones, who's your backup. It's
and you
been
don't want to let
the last
Mac
few
get
weeks.
hurt. I mean, I'm sure Mac isn't going to want to get into a position where he will risk, you know, his future for games that don't matter after the way that the organization kind of.
But he still has to go out there and put on tape. I mean, we see a lot of guys. Kyle Duggar is going to be a free agent. He's been playing well. Mike Onwenu is going to be a free agent. He's been playing well. Jabril Peppers, the list goes on and on. Now, another storyline going into the game yesterday, which made it interesting. NFL Network came out with a report. If Bill Belichick beats the Chiefs, if they rattle off wins to end the year, that could change Robert Kraft's minds. I said I think it's a decided factor. If he wants to return as GM as head coach, you say no. Last night, I mean, put the nail in the coffin, in my opinion. I didn't expect much change to happen. What was your read on that? What do you think after yesterday Robert Kraft is thinking?
Yeah, I think it's too late for Bill personally, to stay with the organization. I think he has too much pride to even want to stay at this point with all the speculation in the first place. It's almost like he'd be doing himself a disservice. But that being said, I think that the Patriots are doing themselves a disservice if they let go of Bill. I've said it once, I'll say it before. The worst thing that could happen is they end up letting go of Bill and he ends up with a winning record with another team, and the Patriots are slow to rebuild, if you will. But we'll see what happens. But it seems like everywhere that we turn, we're hearing reports that he's out at the end of the year.
Yeah, I understand it's tough to part with the guy that's accomplished so much, but last 4 seasons losing record, hasn't won a playoff game since the 18-19 season. You've appeared in 2 playoff games, and you've gotten run off your own field and your teeth kicked in by the Bills as well. The way he's been missing on draft picks, the ways he's missing in free agency, what he did with his coaching staff last season, it's tough to imagine Bill Belichick being shown the door or traded. But he's also dug his own grave. Even if he wanted to return and say, I'll just be the head coach, hire GM, it's hard to imagine that general manager coming in, making his own calls. You want to have a relationship with the head coach. But if a GM gets a linebacker Bill doesn't like, he's just going to bench him. He's shown that. It's the ego for him. It's a stubbornness. So I think it's not just, it will be tough for Kraft to say you're going, but it's also what Bill Belichick has done to himself. So people could say it's a disservice, but I think it's at this point for the franchise. You haven't done anything in the last 4 years. You've digressed to one of the bottom 5 franchises in the NFL. You need to let him go. You need a good offensive-minded young head coach with modern football, build a well-vetted staff, and also let a GM call the shots in personnel, let a coach call the shots when it comes to coaching.
Yeah, and another decision that at first seemed like a coaching decision, but then ended up being, according to his agent, a mental health matter was J.C. Jackson not playing at all yesterday. Alex Austin being forced into that starting cornerback spot and playing all of the snaps that Jackson would have taken. And then you hear Austin say after the game, well, I didn't even know I was starting today. So it really was like a minute-by-minute decision because people saw Jackson pregame in the locker room. I mean, it looked like he was going to play. You have to wonder what happened there.
Yeah, it was weird. We all realized in the press box all at once because the Patriots defense was down to a red zone stand, and you see 28 out there with 27. That's Miles Bryant and Alex Austin as the corners. It took every rep. And you're thinking, why is Alex Austin playing this many reps? And you realize J.C. Jackson, who wasn't a late game scratch, who was active, did not play at all, was not seen on the bench. Dietrich Wise, we asked him after the game if he expected J.C. Jackson to play, and he said yes, solely because he saw him in the locker room. Alex Austin said it was a surprise to him. He didn't know until right before kickoff that he'd be starting, and Bill Belichick said J.C. Jackson was available. Was asked again. He said he wasn't available. Leave it at that. We know J.C. Jackson has had his mental health issues. That goes back to his Chargers days. You know, he was inactive week 3. Week 4, he was asked to go in and play in the second half for an injured teammate. His cleats were untied. He said he wasn't warmed up. He didn't want to. Then the Chargers said, fine, go back to New England. We'll pay you. Just simply not be here. And even heard stories of the general manager, Tom Telesco, for the Chargers going into rooms after and apologizing to his teammates. Sorry, we paid this guy so much money and he just wasn't worth it. If it's mental health for J.C. Jackson, I hope he's okay. But it also very well can just be, hey, you're going to play a reduced role today. He hit a wall and he said, scratch off. I don't care. I don't want to play. There's so much variance that goes into this. I hope J.C. Jackson can be okay because he's a good football player. But at the same time, you're someone on the roster. You still have a lot to play for because his career can end next week and never play another down. He has to earn it. He has to get on that field and play. So if it's mental health, I hope he finds his clarity. But at the same time, the Patriots, that might have been his last time in Gillette Stadium as a New England Patriot was on Sunday.
Yeah, you hate to see it for him, and obviously you wish him the best with whatever he's dealing with because clearly it's something big enough if he's sitting out from one of the last games of the regular season for the Patriots, the second to last home game. And, you know, looking at teams around the AFC East right now, I think one team that's kind of come out on a high note this second half of the season is the Buffalo Bills. Now they have much better odds of making it to the playoffs. I think they're actually in the top 3 teams in terms of highest odds to make it to the Super Bowl, which is
I would have hit them on that. Yeah, I needed the defense to see more, but yeah, they've won 3 of their last 4. They're 8-6. They're the 9 seed. And if the defense held up in overtime in Philadelphia, they would have won 4 in a row. They would have a much better spot. It is amazing this turnaround we see. They fire Ken Dorsey. They figure out a role with James Cook, who's averaging over 100 yards per game total through the air, on the ground. He has 3 receiving touchdowns, 1 rushing. And Josh Allen, I mean, MVP dark horse. People are saying Brock Purdy. They were saying Jalen Hurts. But Josh Allen, if they make it into the postseason, they make this late game push, especially having the Chargers, Patriots, and Dolphins remaining on schedule, they could win 3 more. And all of a sudden, they could be looking at an 11-6 record. And I think they can slide in as a 6 or 7 seed.
And we talk about a team getting hot at the right time. We look at the Bills, and they just snapped the Cowboys' 5-game winning streak.
Yep.
They're playing well at the right time. And yeah, you could say the Chiefs just beat the Patriots, and Patrick Mahomes called the Patriots a really good team after the game, which is something you haven't heard a lot of players necessarily call this year's Patriots team. But you have to kind of look at that. Like the record for the Chiefs before that, they lost the past 2 games before they played the Patriots. They're kind of on a downward trend. So if the Bills are getting hot now, it's kind of what matters.
Yeah, it was a Chiefs team. I think they went from 7-2 to 8-5, lost 2 in a row. Mahomes has never lost 3 regular season games in a row. Didn't happen, but yeah, it just shows the upward trend and the downward trend. So many teams, even the Eagles, they're banged up right now. We'll see how they do on Monday Night Football, but a lot of teams, it's a lot of volatility when it comes to how they're playing.
And look, I know stats don't really matter at this point in the season, but to paint a picture of the Super Bowl odds right now, in the AFC, the Ravens have the best chance of making it to the Super Bowl at 19%, according to the New York Times. Kansas City Chiefs, 10% chance of making it to the Super Bowl. And now Bills are at 8%. So that 2% difference from the Chiefs, isn't that much?
Yeah, exactly. And it shows, getting hot at the right time. And still, to me, I think it's the Niners get in there. It's theirs to lose. But in the AFC, it's the Ravens. It could be the Bills now, because with Josh Allen, and if they get a home playoff game, doesn't seem like they will, but you never know how things may fall. If they get a home playoff game, tough to win up in Buffalo this time of year. And to end here, so we're talking about Super Bowl contenders. There's also contenders for the number 1 overall pick. So the Panthers beat the Falcons. That put the record at 2-12. They have the number 1 overall pick. Well, the Bears do. They have the Panthers pick. Patriots at 3-11 because they have a weaker strength of schedule, so rewards teams. They're picking 2 ahead of the Cardinals. Patriots could mess around. Panthers could mess around. Patriots could be looking at drafting Caleb Williams, number 1 overall. I think they go Caleb Williams or Drake May, 1 or 2, but they find themselves still in a good spot, especially with at Denver, at Buffalo, and then finishing off this season, New York Jets at home.
Exactly. And I think it's just wild to think, a couple weeks ago when the Patriots had that 3rd overall pick position for the draft, we're like, wow, there's no way they might end up having the 1st overall pick. But now as things shake out, the Panthers win. If they keep winning, this is all possible.
Yeah, Panthers are bad, but I think the good part the Patriots are in, you just want to have one of the top 2 picks. Because I think Panthers go Caleb Williams. If you're the Patriots, you go Drake May at quarterback. You need a new quarterback. You look at the free agency class is not strong. And you look at the wide receiver free agency class, go out, sign T. Higgins, because offensive tackle, Mike Onwenu is the top candidate right there. You could go out, re-sign Mike Onwenu. You go out, you sign T. Higgins or Michael Pittman, but you get a Drake May, you get a bridge quarterback, then maybe trade your way back into the end of the 1st round. Looking at Tyler Guyton, Troy Fautanu, or Talise Fuaga. Those are 3 offensive tackles you need to get, because Trent Brown, he hasn't been healthy. He hasn't mentally seemed locked in the last few weeks. And overall, you can't turn again to Connor McDermott, Vandarian Lowe, Calvin Anderson, these guys that have not shown up for you. You need a quarterback. You need an offensive tackle. Wide receiver, the answer is there in free agency to me.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how the AFC East shakes out, and also what position the Patriots end up drafting. I mean, it's all coming up quicker than we realize. The NFL regular season's ending in just a few weeks. Patriots have their last home game in a few weeks against the Jets. That could be Bill Belichick's final game at Gillette Stadium.
Yeah, I'm interested in that one. If there's a tribute on the Jumbotron, what the field will be like in the stadium. It'll be against the Jets, who are now eliminated from the playoffs as well, as Aaron Rodgers playing. But just to go into that, Bill Belichick's last home game, or last game as a Patriots head coach, could be against the Jets. And think about how much it would mean for Woody Johnson and the Jets if they beat him, ended his career in the Patriots. Because remember, he left them at the altar. He was the head coach of the Jets. Left them to be the head coach of the Patriots.
And also, looking at the ticket prices for the Patriots game, they were even lower than they were the week before. I think I saw that some were going for $4. I saw something on Twitter that they were going for 45 cents right before kickoff, which is kind of giving Panthers vibes. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but either way, $4 for a ticket to a Patriots game is just a completely different era. But if there's confirmed, reports by the end of the season that Bill's moving on, I bet those tickets will be so expensive.
I imagine that. Yeah, it could be. It was interesting yesterday in the stadium. A lot of Chiefs fans. Now, of course, a lot of them had travel plans. Go into Boston, hang for the weekend, Monday Night Football, Chiefs Patriots. Of course, it got moved to the Sunday 1 o'clock slot. But Chiefs fans got there early, a lot of red in the stadium, a lot of loud cheers for Chiefs. It felt like a neutral to home game for Kansas City.
Wow.
And Robert Kraft, open air, ownership suite, he hears this, it reflects him. He pays attention. He sweats the little things. That's how he's become so successful. So we'll see. Of course, that final home game against the Jets will be the final one, but this is Week 15 NFL Tea Time. George Belichicks, Meredith Gorman. As always, we'll see you guys same place, same time next week.